So we're gonna go to your composition book. We're gonna put two different examples, but we're gonna stop in between each one and do some stuff on your whiteboard. So if you'll put at the top of your next empty page, okay, the top of your next empty page, put adding mixed numbers. Okay, adding mixed numbers. Okay, so we've already learned about adding fractions, so now we're gonna add mixed numbers, which we know is a whole number with a fraction, like 3.5 would be a mixed number. Okay, so again, not really anything new, we're just combining stuff you already know. So let's put this example in your notes, and then we're gonna go to your whiteboard for a minute. So we're gonna do 4 1/3, okay, 4 1/3, and we're gonna add 7 1/6. Okay, 4 1/3, and we're gonna add 7 1/6. Okay, so we know when we have fractions, we need a common denominator, which we don't have right now. We have a 3 and a 6. So which shortcut would go with 3 and 6? They only share one as a factor, so we multiply them. 3 goes into 6, so it's 6. Or they have more than one as a factor. Maggie?
The second one.
3 goes into 6. Okay, so we know that we need to change this fraction, okay, to have a 6 on the bottom. And remember, you don't need to do anything with this. On the quiz, several people wrote that again. You don't need to write that again. Just leave it like it is. And so we know we've got to go times 2. So we got to go times 2. Okay, so here is our new problem. Okay, so now we're just going to add the fractions just like you did last chapter. I mean, not last chapter, the beginning of this chapter. So what do we do when we add 2 6 and 1 6? Maddie?
So it would be 3 6.
It'd be 3 6.
And then
Okay, then all we do is add our whole numbers. 7 plus 4, and we know that's 11. Okay, and then we can reduce the 3 6. Okay, we can reduce the 3 6. So what would our final answer be, Alexa?
3 1/2.
It's 11.
I mean 11 1/2.
11 and a half.
No, why?
11 and a half. Okay? All right, let's go to your whiteboard, and we're going to try a couple of these, and then we're going to come back to your composition book because there's another thing that can happen. But let's just try a couple of these first. You want to put your whiteboard probably long ways, since your problems go long ways, so you've got space to do them. Okay, and again, we'll put one more example in your composition book in a second. Okay, let's do, let's do 2 2/5 plus 6 1/3. 2 2/5 plus 6 1/3. So what do we need to do first? What do we need to do first? Maddie?
We have to get the denominator to be
Right.
the same.
We got to get a common denominator. Okay, so which shortcut would go with 5 and 3? They only share one as a factor, 3 goes into 5, or they share more than one as a factor? Caroline.
We only share one.
And so what would we do to get our least common denominator? Multiply them. So we know that both are going to become 15. Okay, and so again, this is not hard. There's just a lot of steps. You just got to be careful. Okay, so now we got to figure out the tops. And several people on the quiz just gave this a 1 and this a 2. Okay, you can't do that. Remember, we can't just decide to change the denominator to 15. Whatever you do to change that to 15, the same thing has to happen here. And whatever you do to make this 15, the same thing has to happen here. So what would be missing on the top fraction? What do you do to go from 5 to 15? Do that on the top. Lex.
So, for the top one, you do 5 times 3, which is, so 2 times 3, 6.
Okay, and then we're going to do what here?
3 times 5, so times 5, 5.
Exactly. Okay, now we add. And so, Maddie, what do we get?
So that'll be 11 16, and then you add 6 and 2, and that's 8.
And that's our answer, because we can't reduce. Okay, and again, on the quiz, most of the mistakes I saw were just careless mistakes. Like, several people did what I said would happen. Several people added on the two problems that were fractions that were subtraction. Okay, so just little things like that, like we're adding, you know, making sure we add, making sure we remember to change the numerators, all of that stuff. Okay, let's do one more like that, and then we're gonna look at something else that can happen when you're adding mixed numbers. Okay, so let's do 2 4/5. Okay, and we're gonna add to it 8 1/6. Okay, 2 4/5, and we're gonna add 8 1/6. Okay, so we have 5 and 6 as our denominator. So they only share one as a factor, 5 goes into 6, or they share more than one as a factor. Lex.
So they only share one as a factor.
Right, so
we'll
we multiply them. Okay, so we know they're gonna be 30. Okay, now we need to get our numerators. Okay, now we need to get our numerators. So Maddie, what am I gonna get for my numerators?
So for the top one, you're gonna get 24.
Okay, times 6 times 6, yes.
And then for your bottom one, you're going to get 5.
Okay, so times 5 times 5.
And then you add this.
Then we add. We add the fraction and we add the whole number. So, Maggie, what'd you get?
I got 10 and 29 30.
10 and 29/30. Okay, easy. All right, there's one more thing that can happen with adding mixed numbers. So let's put another example on your composition book. So you've got an example of both things that can happen. Okay, you'll have an example of both things that can happen. Okay, so composition book one more time. Okay, so first example, and so here's our second example. Okay, so let's put as our example, let's put 4 3/4, and we're gonna add to it 2 7/20. Okay, 4 3/4 plus 2 7/20. So we're gonna start just the same. We need a common denominator. We have 4 and 20. So do they only share a factor of 1? Does 4 go into 20, or do they share more than 1 as a factor? Caroline? 4 goes into 20. So we know we only need to change this fraction. This one is fine because it already has a 20 on the bottom. So what do I get from the missing part of the top of my new fraction? Lex?
So since you have to multiply 5 times 4 to get 20, for the top, for the numerator, you're going to do times 5 and you get 15 for the numerator.
Got it. Okay, so now we're still doing the same thing. We still need to add. So we're going to add 15 and 7. And so what do we get when we add 15 and 7 together? Maddie?
We get 22.
We get 22/20. Okay, and then we're going to add our whole number, 6. Okay, so the difference in this problem and the ones that we just did is we have an improper fraction. Okay, we have 22/20. So we need to change that to a mixed number. We need to change this to a mixed number because it can't be 22/20. Okay, so what would we get when we change 22/20 to a mixed number? Caroline?
You would change it to 1 and 2/20.
1 and 2/20, which that can actually reduce to 1 and 1/10. Okay, so I changed this to this. It's really 1 and 1/10. So you can actually take this out if you want to, because we've actually changed it to 1 and 1/10. So now put all of that together to get my final total answer. I have the 6, and then I also have a 1 and 1/10. So put that all together for my answer, Mason. 7 and 1/10. Okay, so again, it's not hard. You just have to take your time and be careful, and it should be pretty easy.
Okay, yeah, I thought we were going to add 6.
Okay, let's try a couple of these on your whiteboard, okay, where we're gonna get to the bottom, or we're gonna have an improper fraction that we need to switch to a mixed number and then put it with the answer. Okay, so again, combining a whole bunch of things that we've been doing all together. Okay, combining a whole bunch of stuff all together. Okay, let's see. Let's do 7 5/9. Okay, and we're gonna add to it 4 18, or 8/18. 4 and 8/18. Okay, so first thing we need is a common denominator, and our numbers are 9 and 18. 9 and 18. So Maddie, what do you think?
So we would, 9 can go into 18.
Right.
And then we would do the top, so then the denominator would become 18. And then 9 times 2 is 18, so on the top you would do it 5 times 2, that's 20.
Got it. The bottom stays the same. And you can always take out, like, in the fractions that are done, like if you want to take out 5/9, you can. So we're going to add, and we're going to get 18/18. Okay, and we're going to get 10 here. No, we're going to get 11 here.
Yeah, I was like,
All right, so we have 11 and we have 18/18. So what is 18/18 really, Mason?
1 whole.
1. So what's my answer, Mason?
12.
12. I have 11 and I have a 1, so it's 12. So that can also happen. You could also get a whole number. That's also considered an improper fraction because it's not, you wouldn't say
it's not
18/18, you would say 1 whole. Okay, so let's try another one like that. So let's say we have, let's do 6 2/5. And we're gonna add to it 8 and 2/3. Okay, 6 2/5 and 8 and 2/3. So we have 5 and 3. So what would be our least common denominator for 5 and 3, Maddie?
So it would be 15 because
Got it.
it only goes at 1.
Yep. So we need to get the tops of our fractions. So what would the tops of our fractions be if we've got to change the denominator to 15? What would the tops of our fractions be? Lex.
So if you're gonna have to make the
Oh, that's
bottom, the denominator 15, that was times 5. So you'll do 2 times 5 and the numerator is 10 for the bottom fraction. And for the top, since you'll have to do 3 times 5 for 15. So 3 times 2, 6.
Got it. Okay, so what do we get for our original answer before we fix it? What do we get for our original answer? Maggie?
14 and 16, 15.
14 and 16 15ths. Okay, so now we need to fix the 16 15ths and put it with the 14. And so what would we get when we change the 16 15ths, Maddie?
We would get 1 and 1 15.
1 and 1 15th.
And then you have to add 14 and 1, and then that would be 15.
Got it. So it's 15 and 1 15. Okay, let's do one more of these. And this is all there is to adding mixed numbers.
I think this is really fun.
All right, let's try another one. Let's do 3 4/9. And we're gonna add to it 6 2/3. Okay, so we have 3 and 9. 3 and 9 as our two numbers. And so what are we gonna get when we get a least common denominator? Maddie?
Well, 3 can go into 9, and that, and it goes in 3 times 3 is 9. So then you do the top times 3, and then it's 6.
Got it. Okay, and remember the top we don't need to do anything to because it already has a 9. So now all we need to do is add our fractions, add our whole number, and what would we get originally, Lex?
So you would get originally 9 and 10 9.
9 and 10 ninths.
But you have to reduce it, so
Not
you
reduce it, switch it to,
switch
yeah,
it
to a mixed
1
number.
and 1 9.
1 and 1 ninth.
So then you add the whole to 9, and you get 10 and 1 9.
You get 10 and 1 ninth. That's all there is to adding mixed numbers. Okay, and then we just have one more thing. to learn in chapter 3, and